Good evening, this is Corporal Cretella with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution cast. I gotta stop calling myself Corporal, just gonna call myself Cretella. Today we have a 1v1 submitted to me by VeeCrack, or VeeSmack as he's now calling himself. And of course, since he submitted it to me, that means he probably won this game, but we'll see. I could be wrong. Haven't watched it yet. Our Hive Tyrant over here is Floid. Good player. Playing the Hive Tyrant, walking right by that power node. Hive Tyrant, extremely tanky, has some of the most powerful melee weapons in the game for a commander. In fact, one of his weapons is the most powerful. Can walk through cover, does not get suppressed, has an ability that even makes him invincible. Pretty annoying stuff. Astounding commander. He still hasn't captured his natural victory point. Instead, he's gone for this far victory point as well as his natural requisition. On the other side, we do have VeeSmack as the Space Marine Apothecary. I like his new look with that skull thing on top of his backpack. Apothecary, certainly very different from the Hive Tyrant. Hive Tyrant is extremely tanky and extremely strong, very powerful, does a lot of damage. The Apothecary does not do much damage, is not very strong, but he can be very annoying himself just with his ability to heal the already tanky Space Marine army. Anyway, VeeCrack has gone for the very typical Space Marine build. His starting scout, he's got the Tactical Marines right here, which I like in this match, although this is considered the hardest matchup in the game. I like Tacs in this matchup because they can inflict a lot of losses on the Termagants and the Hormagaunts without taking any losses themselves. Oh, and while I was talking about the builds, VeeCrack does have that second scout squad too. Only problem right now is VeeCrack does not really have any kind of melee counters, and Floid, on the other hand, went for a somewhat atypical build for Tyranids. He went for a Hormagaunt, then a Termagant, then another Hormagaunt squad. Usually you get two Termagants. VeeCrack, though, is taking advantage of the fact that Tyranid is the weakest race when it comes to dealing with anti-garrison, and this map is just full of garrisons. Space Marines, on the other hand, pretty good at dealing with garrisons. Ton of different stuff, whether it's grenades on the scouts, flamers on the tacs, plasma cannons later on, you name it. Anyway, as we can see, VeeCrack has the smaller army, but he's actually winning on the map control. He's got more, in fact, Floyd has very little in terms of map control, though he is getting some of it back, but he's bleeding a ton of Hormagaunts. Probably feeding these tacs a lot of experience. Not that much, actually. Warriors come in right here. Not so great to start off, to be honest. I mean, they are a melee unit, and right now he could use the melee because VeeCrack does not actually have any anti-melee up yet, and he's going to lose his Apothecary. Almost. He's going to get out of there. Warriors, not a very high DPS melee unit. Mostly you get them for the melee synapse, and right now Floyd is actually getting the Barbed Stranglers instead for suppression, and also as one of the few sources of anti-garrison for the Tyranids. Most of the fighting going on down here. These tacs going to get suppressed, but ASM already out on the field. Definitely going to hard counter a Barbed Strangler Warrior Brood. I would say they would even counter a regular Warrior Brood. Kind of swallowing some of the syllables in that word. We have a full gen farm going down right there for V. Floyd is getting his natural victory point back, and he's getting Adrenal Glands on these Hormagaunts. I think you actually don't see that too much. It does give them some kind of boost. Increases damage and health by 10%. Yeah, I'd say they already do a lot of damage even without the Adrenal Glands, and it does give them a little bit more health, but I think these days it's considered not a very good upgrade. Before, this upgrade would actually give them a speed increase, and they already have a very high speed, and it actually made them extremely good at killing retreating units. It used to be, basically, like, in this matchup, if you retreated a squad, you would pretty much lose the squad, unless you had a shotgun blast ready to knock them off, just because their speed with retreat and the fact that they actually do a lot of damage made them extremely good retreat killers. And then they had their speed nerfed, I think. They no longer got a speed buff from the adrenal glands. And while I'm trying to talk about old balance, we have Space Marines kind of winning this battle. Kind of, maybe. I mean, the problem is the power of Hormagaunts in melee does a lot of damage. Assault Space Marines just barely managing to not lose a model, partly thanks to the purification rights for the Apothecary. I actually think this is a fantastic war gear. The Apothecary was my original main. I still play him from time to time. And purification rights, basically whenever you use a heal, the unit that you use the heal on does knockback to units that are around it, making it an extremely good melee counter, especially when you have melee units that are low model, high HP, because then they just get knocked back and they take a lot of range damage. And obviously, we actually have a ton of range damage output from the Space Marines. We have the shotguns, which the main reason to get them is for the melee counter of the explosive shot, but the shotguns actually do a lot of damage. Probably one of the highest sources of DPS, or damage, just damage period, for the Space Marines. And even this Flamer is going to be doing good damage. Not high DPS, but it does area of effect, and we have a ton of these bunched up Hormagaunt models and Termagant models. Hormagaunts, ooh, that's going to be scary. I thought V would lose a model there. So Hormagaunts, not quite as powerful retreat killers as they used to be. So Floid finally managed to drive off the Space Marines. VeeSmack doing a pretty good job, considering I don't even think Space Marine is really his main, and he's winning against a pretty good Tyranid player in arguably the worst matchup in the game. You know, we got a pretty long tier 1 from VeeSmack, and yet, despite going the longer tier 1, he's not too far behind Floid economically. He actually has a higher power income because Floid hasn't gotten another generator right here. And even just while I'm looking at generators, V managed to win that engagement. I think he basically won because he got the suppression on Floyd's units, and he had the smaller army presence right there. V gonna get a decap on the natural, on Floyd's natural victory point. He should also get a decap and even a cap on this contested victory point. Although I think that might be what he's bringing his scouts over to do. We have back capping from Termagants. They have their Toxin Sacs upgrade. Makes them very good. Well, it makes them good. Basically, they're terrible when they don't have this upgrade, because it gives them a 45% damage increase, and also gives them the crippling poison ability. Extremely useful ability. Basically an infantry snare. Most of the time we think of vehicle snares, but that gives them an infantry snare, especially good for melee commanders, tanky melee commanders. The Apothecary is a melee commander, and he isn't even tanky, so it will be extremely good against him. Floyd only has one of those squads, though, and he's using it for backcapping. So both players going to tier 2. Floyd's going to get there first, but he won't have a lot of resources to spend once he's in tier 2. V is getting... Oh, he doesn't have a lot of resources to spend because he already had a tier 2 unit queued up. He's got the Zoanthrope. Extremely good unit. The only thing about that Zoanthrope is it won't go entirely uncountered. V does have his Assault Space Marines, which are doing a wonderful job right now. Really, that Purification Rights is really turning the tide for the Assault Space Marines in these melee fights. Because Assault Space Marines, for a melee squad, they're actually a low damage melee squad. They mainly rely on being really tanky, but ultimately, even Hormagaunts just out DPS them by quite a pretty big margin. So it really helps to have that knockback, basically the knockback and the heal, restoring the Assault Space Marines to full health, and also bringing and also knocking down those Hormagaunts. We have the Apothecary right here, gets knocked over by some Warpfire, should not stay in this fight much longer. He does have the Power Axe, which is not that powerful of a weapon, but it is his most powerful melee weapon. And then you actually want him in melee combat because he'll get energy back with each strike, burn energy from whoever he's hitting. Actually has good synergy with purification rites, and he also gets combat stimulants. This is not a very common Apothecary build, but not bad. It kind of makes him like a spellcaster. Well, he's only got 2 abilities, but I guess the only issue with this, actually there is no real issue. I was going to say that the issue is he won't have enough energy to use all of his abilities, but he actually will only have 2 abilities, and he will have enough energy because he has the Power Axe. Assault Space Marines jump in there, nearly wipe out the Zoanthrope, even though they don't have that high DPS, though they do have a Sergeant right now, so they will do a little bit more damage than they usually do. But even with the Sergeant, Assault Space Marine squad does not do as much damage as most other melee squads. Even with the Sergeant, actually does less damage than Sluggers with no upgrades, Banshees with no upgrades. The main thing is just that they're so tanky. We do have scouts. We have sergeants on both of these scouts. I kind of like sergeants. Makes scout squads quite a bit tankier. Because the scout sergeant actually has quite a bit of HP. He can survive a sniper shot. I think based on this, the scout sergeant has 250 health. The regular scout models only have 140. Makes the squad overall a lot tankier. Lets them stay in a bit longer. Obviously, the detectability can be pretty important if there are units to detect, although there are none right now. And then the Hive Tyrant goes down. But anyway, as I was saying, wow, and we had another squad go down. That was a Hormigaunt Brood that went down. And will the other one go down too? No, that one will get out of there just fine, unless V decides to jump these in, but they will probably not even be able to finish it off. But they do force off the Zoanthrope, almost wiping the Zoanthrope. Maybe going to kill it. Yep, wow. Alright, they do. And now they definitely will take out this Brood Nest. Brood Nest has supposedly been improved a bit in Elite Mod. I don't play Tyranids at all. I kind of think they're a boring race and not very fun. But they're supposed to be good. Anyway, maybe are we going to get a Retreat Grenade here? We're just going to get a lot of Shotgun Blast. Especially if you have 2 scout squads with shotguns and a grenade, you can actually use the combination of having one squad use the shotgun blast and then the other one uses the grenade. And they actually restored their energy really fast. We have advanced targeters from the Devastators, and we have an infestation going down to disrupt the Devastators. Does no damage, but does disrupt them and allows the Hive Tyrant to tie them up. We also have a Vanguard, Stern Guard veterans. Just kidding. Not Vanguard, Stern Guard veterans. Warrior Brood in here now with their adrenal glands. Adrenal glands have actually been nerfed. Increases their health only by... Wait, I don't know. I'm using the old tooltip, I think, unless this was updated, because it says increased health by 50%. I could have sworn it used to increase health by 75%. Anyway, that engagement goes in favor of the Space Marines. V has pushed up really far in front. Floyd basically has no map control. V, meanwhile, getting his 6th unit, a Plasma Devastator squad, and he has enough resources to go to Tier 3. That map control. And these Stern Guard veterans, right now they're using those Hellfire rounds, damage over time against regular infantry. Really good unit for that purpose. Not quite as versatile as they're supposed to be. They do some AV, but it's pretty bad. Their anti-heavy infantry is mediocre. And then their other bolts, the Dragonfire bolts, which are supposed to be anti-cover. You hardly ever see that stuff. Oh, you should have blasted them back into that grenade. And we got a double retreat from both of those scout squads.
This Apothecary at level 3. You very rarely see the Apothecary level that much. Even level 3 is quite a bit for him. Hive Tyrant is only level 1, and he's sitting on the floor, unfortunately, though. And that's really strange. The best way to get levels with the Apothecary is actually to use the Purification Vials. Damage over time grenade. Big Plasma Cannon shot. Almost wiping out these Hormigons. And definitely going to really hurt this blob right here. Merciless Strike from the Assault Space Marines. And Floyd is really using those infestations to disrupt this heavy bolter. Kind of making it not do a whole lot. And we have Angels of Death. Plasma Cannon shot. No way Floyd can win this engagement. VeeSmack showing some proficiency with the Apothecary right here. It's like he actually knows how to play it. Angels of Death wears off. No longer gives you invincibility, but gives you a big damage reduction and knockback immunity in Elite mod. And still very much an engagement winner. Wow. All right. So Floyd gets some Gene Stealers. Could probably buy back his Hive Tyrant right now. V, on the other hand, getting a Dreadnought. I think that is a very good choice. Oh, and that plasma cannon, friendly plasma cannon shot. I thought it was actually going to screw over the Apothecary and get him and kill him, but he managed to make it out there alive. And V is just kind of holding his ground here. He sent me this replay, so of course he's winning. He's just got his big Space Marine blob right here, and this can actually be tough. You know, it's Space Marines. You know, I think at some point, some people actually said that they're the worst one-on-one race, but that they're pretty good in teams. This Space Marine blob here can be really tough, and the thing that's tough about it is basically that melee units can't really approach it because they'll just get blasted off by the scouts, and then they get focused down by the Tax and the other scout squad. But it's hard to just target the scouts because it's a huge Space Marine blob in there, and if you just target the scouts, you're gonna get hit by the Tax. And I guess part of the problem right now is also that for basically to deal with shotgun scouts, you need some kind of heavy ranged fire. So, like for Chaos Space Marines, Tzeentch Space Marines are a scout counter. For Eldar, the Warp Spiders are a scout counter. But right now, Floyd doesn't have that much in terms of scout counters. He lost his one Termagant squad, and even Termagant's not as powerful as wow, and we got a squad wipe on that Warrior Brood from the Dreadnought right here with Dark Age of Technology. Gives it an extra 300 health, and also really improves its the inspiration it gives to its allies. And this Plasma Devastator squad should have died. It should have died, but Floyd turned his attention away from the Plasma Devastator squad to concentrate on the regular Devastator squad. I think if he had stayed with the Plasma Devastator squad, he would have destroyed it. Gene Stealer's about to go down here. They should... I guess Floyd is desperate for the decap, but he needs to just retreat those Gene Stealers. Gene Stealers are a great asset for Space Marines. I mean, for Tyranids. They just do a ton of damage, and they can really be really annoying once they use that health ability that gets them to regenerate health. Apothecary right here, level 4. Again, you really don't see that very often. You see maybe level 2, but level 4 Apothecary is a rarity. We have a Hormigon squad right here. Only 5 models, about to be in a lot of trouble. Just retreats out of there. No retreat grenade from VeeSmack. I thought he would. Maybe we can get some bolts right here. He could potentially really wipe out this Hormigon squad, but he just kind of doesn't. Instead, he's going for this cap. Assault Space Marines jump in here against the Hive Tyrant, who gets the Warp Field upgrade. This Dreadnought's in a little bit of trouble, but not too much. And there goes that Plasma Devastator squad. He did it right that time. Gene Stealer's in a little bit of trouble, getting knocked back twice. Gene Stealers are an extremely good melee unit, but there's really not a whole lot that they can do against 2 squads of Shotgun Scouts. And that is the game. Hope you enjoyed it.